Welcome back, folks, to Sturgetopia. This is Sturge, and I'm here on Planet Toulan with episode 4 of the Toulan Files. That's right, I'm standing at Snow Stretch, looking out over those spires, and I want to cover 3 different topics that I think are sort of like secrets, kind of like Toulan secrets. One of them includes ground items that no one ever talks about. I've never seen a video of anyone talking about the various things that you can find on the ground here on planet Toulan that are other than fruits, rocks, and dung, interestingly enough, as well as the refining of things. Many of the items that you need to refine here on this planet to make the refined material you can use in a blueprint require more than normal. And having said that about refining items, it is the third topic, of course, is the difficulty in making certain items here on planet Toulan because of the availability of the resources and how I've found those resources and in not yet quite enough quantity to make the item that in particular that I want. But I do want to focus on making Toulan-specific items using the Toulan blueprints so that I can get other Toulan-specific blueprints, mostly like clothing and the furniture that I've talked about in the previous episodes. And that's the whole plan here, is to keep this series going even after I go to different planets, always to come back and revisit and show the progress that Planet Toulan is making, that I'm making here, and how that can just make the gameplay a lot more fun for me and for everyone else, I hope. I already know I'm getting messages from people saying they're encouraged to come to Toulan because of these videos, so that makes me happy that the content is getting out there and it's working as intended. So let's do some more of that. Everyone is familiar with finding fruits, rocks, and dung on the ground in various places on various planets. But here on Toulan you can find Nawa Drops, as well as Nawa Fragments, and my understanding is Mamnoon. This is a game changer for those who want to adventure a little differently, to do fruit walking and so forth. Every once in a while, and I've talked to a few of the seasoned veterans in this game, you can find these things, these mineable resources like Nawa Drops, Mamnoon, and Nawa Fragments, which I'm going to get to next, on the ground. And in sufficient quantity to make it worthwhile. 84 peck in Nawa Drops just sitting on the ground. This is the third time I have found Nawa Drops just sitting on the ground. That's pretty darn cool. So keep that in mind. While you're adventuring and you're walking around, keep your eyes peeled to the ground as well, because those things will pop up, although very rarely. They'll pop up sometimes in sufficient quantities, like Nawa Fragments, to be worth your while, and the markup on these items is really quite high, and they sell very quickly, as opposed to fruits, rocks, and dung, which tend to take 3 or 4 days to sell. These can sell immediately. You'll remember in episode 1, there was all those new mining missions that you can pick up right when you land. And one of those mining missions is Nawa Fragment Bronze Award. And so I thought about this when I first saw that. I'm like, well, I think that the only place you can find Nawa Fragments is at the Narian Temple. Or now, obviously, from what I hear from other players, you can find them on the ground outside of the Narian Temple, but they're right in the center of the temple where the spring is, that middle area. You can find the Nawa Fragments. And kind of like an oil rig, it's just like the Nawa Fragment rig. But you can actually mine for Nawa Fragments, and I spoke with Dorky at Dorky TV, and he said, yeah, no problem. You can find them mining, but there's a catch. You can't find them with anything but the TT finder, or at least in his 16 years of experience, he hadn't. And my experience so far is the same. Here's the first example. 103 meters using the Sabad F100 finder. This is the trade terminal finder. And yeah, it's not a lot of Nawa Fragments, and the depth is pretty shallow, as you will see in the next couple of examples, but kind of interesting that you can find Nawa Fragments using the Sabad finder, the TT finder, F100. That's pretty cool. And it opens up the door for a lot more Nawa fragments than just standing at the Narian Temple and hoping for a drop in the PvP area. Here's another example. 85 meters. This is also a minimal, size 1, but more Nawa fragments. And this comes using the F100, Sabbat F100, the TT Finder. So far, we've got 2. The depth is nothing much over 100 meters in depth. So that's interesting. It may make doing the bronze mission really difficult because you don't get any credit from minimals. So you'd have to get really, really lucky and get a 3 to get a couple of points towards that. So bear that in mind. I broached the subject already with Virtual Sense, so I'm going to put that in as a suggestion. All right, here we are. Third hat trick. Nawa Fragment find. Roughly the same area as all of the others, so at least that is consistent. I'm able to find quite a bit of this. And I say at least these are 3 different finds. To me, that's quite a bit, even though the amount in each is very limited. A minimal find is anywhere from 5 to 24 peck, and so that is going to take a long time to acquire enough of the material to be tremendous value. But here we are, Sabbat Finder F100, and we're going to get about 14 peck in Nawa fragments. So there you go. You can mine Nawa fragments on Toulan. You don't just have to find them on the ground. And that is one of the Toulan secrets. I was going to go into some detail about how difficult it is to find Casworm. Yeah, that you have really good luck. And like I mentioned in the first video, that you have better luck using the Sabbat Finder or a planet-specific finder and finding these resources. There was a little pushback on that. It's true. I can use the Sabbat Finder and find Cosworm, like this hit here, almost every time I go out. And then if I use something else, like an F101, F105, a Terramaster 4, depth plays a huge issue here, and you just don't hit it as much. So the TT Finder is a winner. It works really well. I'm not going to go into tremendous detail. It was difficult for me to find a lot of Cosworm. So I mined it around Pit North, and I mined it with the Sabbat F100 because I know that I can get it. I did find 2 or 3 finds with the Sabbat M2. They were 3s, but that was out of like 100 drops. So it's a lot less, well, it's more rare to find Casworm using other finders other than the TT Finder. It just takes forever using the TT Finder, or you can buy it on the auction house. The last topic I really wanted to address was the refining of certain materials, and that the quantities are different. So generally, end matters, it's 2 to refine to 1 refined end matter, and it's 3 stones to refine to 1 ingot. That's not the case here for some of the resources on Toulan. So there we are, trying to add 3 Sunburst stones. Doesn't work, right? Just getting the red deal. So what's a Sunburst stone worth? It is worth 0.11 PED. It's loading, really. There we go. 11 peck, right? And I have a Sunburst ingot here to show you as an example. So Sunburst ingot is worth 77 peck, which means you need 7 Sunburst stones to convert to 1 Sunburst ingot. That's very different. That's something that you don't see very often, and you can see it in the markup too. Sunburst is actually fairly rare. I only have maybe 3 locations now where I can find Sunburst, and it definitely cycles in and out. So you have to, but bear that in mind when you're refining materials and you're going for these particular things. Sometimes that's why the stone sells a little better. So let's look at the Casworm, which is important. I need a lot of Casworm right now. And 2 of them won't refine, 3 of them won't refine. And we could see that right away. So Casworm this is why it's a bit of a challenge for me right now. Each Casworm is worth, 6 peck? Where the loading here is just terrible. Yes, 6 peck. It looks like silk or a pill or something. And so then it takes 4 Casworm to refine to 1 Herrera thread. And Career Thread's what I need for the Habk blueprint. And that's why I'm struggling right now, because I'm having to use the TT finder to get enough Casworm to make Career Thread. And I just don't have enough. I have 3 clicks worth right now, and that's not enough to really make a viable video for you to try to hopefully get maybe a blueprint drop from that. I would like to have 100 clicks, and that's just going to take a lot more time. So maybe next week. Yes, so here we go. Quick look, Habk blueprint, and I have 3 clicks worth. So I need 5 Career Thread per click, and then I need 5 tab leather, which is actually pretty easy to get, and then Yowd bottles. I think it's Yowd instead of Yewd, like loud Yowd, and then you need 4 of each of those. 4 of those. So that's 1.55 PED per click here. So this is kind of an expensive blueprint to run if you're a bit low level. So looks like it's going to take me a little while. I have 3 clicks. I might be able to pull off a 4th here today. So to get to the point where another blueprint is going to drop, I'm going to need maybe 40 clicks or more like 50 clicks. So that's going to have to come in next week's episode, hoping that I get some of my some more Career Thread and Casworm. All right, so there are some of the Toulan secrets. You can find other things than fruits, rocks, and dungs on the ground here. Obviously, Nawa Drops, Nawa Fragments, and I've heard other things like Mamnoon appears on the ground, which is good news for everyone who's keeping their eyes peeled while walking along, running along here on Planet Toulan. So it's a little extra love to be able to find items like that on the ground. But speaking of Nawa Fragments, you can mine for them. It appears from all of the experience of the seasoned veterans that I've spoken with, and my own experience, the TT finder, the F100 Sabad, is the only finder that actually works for finding Nawa fragments. So it's slow going, but if you're really desperate for Nawa fragments and you don't want to go into the PvP in Narian Temple, you can just mine them. You're going to have to, dig around a little bit, but eventually you'll find the place, and it's not difficult. They're available. So keep that in mind. You can mine for Nawa fragments as well. And of course, last was the refining of certain materials like Sunburst stone and Casworm. And then it takes more material to refine to get the item the refined item that you want. So bear that in mind when you are crafting or you're mining or you're buying those resources, that more of the material is required and will change the cost and outcome of your crafts. And that's all she wrote. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate all your time. And hopefully we will have some good things to show you about the Habk blueprint in the next episode of the Toulan Files. Ciao for now.